very tiny little couplet or rotation area. And this is kind of what we expect with this type of a line of storms moving in, the potential that we're going to see these quick spin ups. So let me pull up the velocity data here. I'm going to go back right here, and it's right here around the Grover area. That's the area we're watching, just south of Grover, north of Smyrna. Very strong winds embedded in this line. So let me put some of the wind speeds on here just to show you how strong these winds are. Right in this area, we've got 60-mile-an-hour winds coming in this area right now. The 60-mile-an-hour winds are moving in from the west there along that line. That is the actual area that we're watching for the storm moving in from the west. So that's the area where we're seeing those strongest winds right there south of the Grover area. So there's that tornado warning. You can see it moving in from the west, moving into the central part of York County and southern part of Gaston County. So let me put a storm track on that, and we'll show you that line moving in from the west. I'm trying to grab this. Here we go. There's the line moving off towards the west. We'll put a quick storm track. So its current speed, it's moving about 45 miles an hour. Let me put an updated storm track on that based on 45 miles per hour. That's the rotation right there, moving towards central part of Mecklenburg County. Possibly, if it holds together, that would be closer to about 420 or so. So there's the line. You could see it pushing in from the west between Grover and Smyrna. That's the line. So tornado warning and a severe thunderstorm warning. So embedded in this entire line, we're seeing damaging wind gusts of up to 60 miles per hour. So it's not going to take a whole lot to bring some trees down all along this line. And as that area right there is the area where the rotation. So it looks like a bow, and you've probably heard this term before, like a bow echo. It looks like a bow and arrow. The strong winds are pushing out, and at the very apex of the bow, there's a little bit of rotation right there. And we see that sometimes with these storms as they're moving in. So tornado warning currently in effect for central part of, as north central part of York County, southern Gaston County. This is heading right towards Clover. It's going to move just to the south of Crowder's Mountain and then move into sections of southern Gaston County over time. So let me put a quick storm track on it right there, pushing towards the east. So based on its current speed, that puts it in South Gastonia about 5:54. Put it into Cramerton around 4 o'clock, Belmont 4:05, Mount Holly around 4:09, Pineville, if it holds together that long. Remember, the warning doesn't go that far, but that cell is going to be in the Pineville area around 4:15, and then the Charlotte area around 4:20ish or so. And I can actually show you, we'll use the scope tool here, and you see that rotation right there around Grover. So we're getting those strong winds rotating in the Grover area. The wider wind field is pretty impressive here. If we start looking at some of the velocity data embedded in here, I'm going to show you just some of the winds we're seeing. 73 miles an hour, 60 there. So that's why I said even though there's a tornado warning, this whole line is very dangerous for bringing trees down because of the strong winds and the fact that we had so much rain over the last couple of days. That is going to cause the soil to be loosened, so it will not take much for trees to come down. So again, if you're just tuning in, this is a tornado warning for the northern sections of York County, southern Gaston County. Essentially the state line is the area that we're most concerned about. Let me look real quickly. We're going to see if we have any debris showing up in that area. And unfortunately, it looks like there might be a little bit of debris showing up on the radar just south of the Grover area. I'm going to double check here. I'm looking at another source off camera here. It's hard to tell if that's the exact area, but right in there, south of Grover, that weakening area, I'm going to actually grab right in there. There might be a little debris showing up on the radar. So that's an indication of the radar picking up possibly some debris within that thunderstorm. So again, this was a tornado warning near York, South Carolina, just to the north of York, near Smyrna, moving towards the Clover area, southern part of Gaston County. Now this eventually could be heading towards the Lake Wylie area. So the next stop on this track is going to be right into the Lake Wylie vicinity. But again, I should caution you, if you live north or south of this line, there's a severe thunderstorm warning for the whole storm, and then we're warning for the actual rotation couplet, which is right about there. So Clover heads up, southern Gaston County, Kings Mountain, areas right around Kings Mountain down towards Crowder's Mountain, and then all of southern part of Gaston County and the northern sections there of York County. So right around 321 between Gastonia and Clover, that's where that rotation is actually heading. This warning is only up for 20 minutes because these quick spin-ups within these cells usually don't last much longer than that. So we tend to see them spin up and then wind down, but just looking at the radar signature, I can tell you that thing's staying pretty strong right around southeast of Grover. So in between Grover, which is in the southeastern section there of basically Cleveland County, and then Smyrna, which is down there right in the western part of York County. So let me go in real closely and I'll kind of highlight the area I'm talking about. I'm going to bring up the right there. Bethany is the small town of Bethany. That is right where that rotation is. So what we're seeing is right in here, we've got some rotation and really strong winds. Those brighter blue colors that you're seeing, those are winds of close to 60 miles per hour. So what we're watching is those strong winds are coming towards the radar. These greens are going a little bit away from the radar. And so basically the radar is telling you we've got strong winds coming here and a little bit of winds coming back this way. So in here, we've got rotation within that storm. So that is the area of greatest concern. Again, what could happen at times, this could spin up and then it could wind back down and then spin back up again as it pushes these. It is flying. It looks like the movement to me is getting closer to about 45 to 50 miles an hour now. If you look carefully, this little comet head near Shelby, I did a Facebook Live a minute ago talking about this whole thing was rotating. So it's got some rotational characteristics within it as it's pushing to the east. Now let's widen this out and track this whole line, because even though there's that tiny tornado warning, anywhere within this line, we could see another spin up. So if we track this out, and again, I gotta put this at the correct distance, about 45 miles per hour is the current wind speed, or wind forward motion of this. We'll put this track out. So this will give you a good indication of when it's going to arrive in each town. So we've got York coming up at 3:41, Gastonia 3:46, Newport at 3:52, Rock Hill at 4 o'clock, Fort Mill 4:04, and then Charlotte right around 4:11 to 4:15. Again, don't read too much into the exact timing, because if this speeds up or slows down, give it about plus or minus about 5 minutes or so. That'll give you a little better indication of the timing of that movement in. So again, if you live in the path of this storm and even the severe thunderstorm warning, I want you to get towards the middle of the home, away from the outside walls and windows. We really need you to stay away from the windows as this passes, because of the threat of those damaging winds bringing down trees, and the fact if you're in the tornado warned area, we want you to get to an interior room, the lowest level, and get into that closet or half bath or pantry. Grab the bike helmets, football helmets, skateboard helmet, any kind of helmet that the kids might have, and put it on their heads, put it on your head. If you have a bike helmet, protect your head. That's what we want you to do as this pushes in towards east. So this is basically right near Kings Mountain State Park, and it's moving east at about 40 miles per hour. So that's the area we're talking about with the rotation, and it's about, I think it's moving a little more northeast, so this could be getting ready to cross over the state line. Let's go back and look at the velocity data one more time here. And looking at the rotation, it looks like it's basically where Cleveland County, Gaston County, and York County all come together there, right on the state line, just north of the Bethany area. So you see that bright blue in the middle of your screen? I'm actually gonna put that cursor on it, because this is right where that little area right there, that's where the rotation is. And that would be the area that if we have a tornado on the ground, it would be in that area. I'm actually taking a look at a couple of different cameras over there right now, just to see if I see anything on the ground. I don't see anything as of right now. I do see a lowering west of Bessemer City, but it's hard to tell. Visibility is not great over in that area. I'm looking back towards the Crowder's Mountain area. Does not look like anything is on the ground right now. But again, the area that we're talking about, so if you've ever been out to Crowder's Mountain, it's right at the top of your screen. There's the Clover area, there's Bowling Green, and you see Crowder's actually popping up on the map there. So that's the area we're talking about, and it's heading right towards that area. So let me put a track on that, moving off in this direction. So that's the actual rotation I'm tracking on the radar. So Bowling Green 348, Crowder's about 350, Cramerton 401, Belmont 404, and Berry Hill about 407. That's the area of concern. So I'm actually, as I'm talking to you, I'm scanning the camera. There's a camera up here in Bessemer City, which is just to the north here. You see it up there, and I'm looking south towards Crowder's Mountain to see if I see any rotation or anything visually. So I'm not seeing anything yet in that area, but that's the area that we would be watching. So in relation to Charlotte, you can see kind of the bigger severe thunderstorm warning. That's the area where we're seeing the damaging winds. So even though the whole area is not under a tornado warning, the fact that we've got winds of up to 60 miles per hour in this whole line right here, it's Boeing segment, you probably need to get everybody into the middle of the house, at least get them away from the windows and get to an interior section just because of the potential for trees and flying debris. That's the updated storm track with that line moving in. So looking back towards the southwest from Gastonia, you're probably seeing some pretty dark skies. This Boeing segment, and you've heard me say several times, this looks like a bow and arrow. If you take this and bent it out, that's the bow. The arrow is the strong winds pushing the tip of this bow out, and right at the very tip is where we're getting some rotation. Now occasionally we can get spin ups on these ends and down here, because if you think about something pushing here, you would get whirlpools here, but also often at the tip. So very strong winds. This is an indication of damaging winds at the very least, and I think we do have a tornado developing at the very tip of that thing as I'm looking at it. I'm actually looking off to the southwest on our Bessemer City camera, and it's hard to tell because the mountain's actually blocking the view, but there is definitely a lowering back to the south of Crowder's Mountain. So there's definitely some kind of lowering going on in this vicinity. Let's look at the velocity data one more time here. And again, there it is. I mean, it's just north of Clover. So it's basically coming right at Crowder's Mountain, and that's exactly the area in the camera that I'm looking at. So it matches up pretty well with the area that I'm talking about. Those winds right around the Bowling Green area, so those are winds that are of 75, 60 miles an hour, all severe winds. So at the very least, we're getting damaging winds there. The other thing we're looking for is to see if we see any debris showing up on the radar. And I am getting a little bit of indication of that just to the west of Crowder's Mountain. So we might very well have something picking up debris at the very least. This could be straight line winds picking up debris, but this possibly could be the tornado right there near the Crowder's Mountain area. So let's do another track because it's moving in this direction. And again, basically Bowling Green area is where it's at right now. We'll widen this back out, track it. You can see how it's crossing the state line now. It's beginning to move back north of the York County line. Doing here, you know, you've got this Boeing segment, which is this area of wind, and if this was a bow and arrow, it would look something like this, and the very tip of the arrow is where you've got the strongest winds, and in this case possible rotation within the storm. So it's right there. I mean, Bowling Green, there's Crowder's Mountain. It's basically right on top of Crowder's Mountain right now. And I'm looking at the camera right there at Crowder's Mountain to see what I see, and I'm losing some visibility, but we certainly have a possibility of a tornado on the ground. It's hard to tell now because you just can't see anything. We're losing the visibility because of the rain over there, but there's certainly some very, very dark lowering there right around Crowder's Mountain. So the visibility is going away over there, but right there around Crowder's Mountain. So heads up, the next stop for this, and I'm going to do a track on this whole burst of wind that continues moving in its direction. That's going to be the area it's heading right towards Gastonia. So it's going to be South Gastonia, eventually McCaddenville, Belmont, Berry Hill, and then Charlotte Douglas International about 4 o'clock or so. That would be the time that we would see it approaching those areas. I'm looking for spotter reports. I don't see a whole lot coming in from that area. The rotation was about 60 to 70 miles per hour. It was about 1,000 feet off the ground looking at the radar. It looks like, I'm just getting some reports now from some of my spotters. A lot of people over in Gaston County have seen the same thing I am. Matthew Young just sent me a tweet saying he's looking south from New Hope Road towards Crowder's Mountain, and he's clearly seeing that lowering as well. So that's the lowering that we're seeing right now. And it's just near Crowder's Mountain. So this is basically right on top of Crowder's Mountain, and it's moving towards the Gastonia Municipal and then Belmont and then Paul Creek. So this is heading right towards Charlotte Douglas International Airport if it holds together. Let's go back to the wider view. You see the bigger severe thunderstorm warning, and I can't emphasize enough that these severe thunderstorm warnings today are going to have some heightened potential. They have what we call a tornado tag in them for a couple of reasons. One, they've got the potential for quick spin-ups, but the winds being produced within these straight line winds are enough that they cause tornado-like damage, low-end EF0 damage. So as this whole segment, so there's a new warning just popped up as I was talking to you. This does now include Charlotte and most of Mecklenburg County, parts of Gaston, Union, and York County. So again, the Panhandle of Lancaster County, just count this as a warning. That's a different office that issues warnings for that, but this is heading right towards us. So that's the area that we would be most concerned about for damaging winds. So this is going to move right across the Charlotte metro area. So we expect to see widespread trees and power lines coming down with the apex of this bow moving in from the west. And there could be a tornado there, but there actually could be a spin up anywhere along this line. So again, if you live in Charlotte, eastern Gaston County, northern York County, Fort Mill, Tigakay, Steel Creek Community, Belmont, Mount Holly, Cramerton, Whitewater Center, Paul Creek, all the way up to Mountain Island Lake. Those areas, if you know anybody there, text them, DM them, send them a message, say, hey, get inside, stay in the middle of the house until this thing passes. The good news is it's moving fast. That means it's in and out. The bad news, that forward speed of 45 means you're getting at least 45 mile an hour winds at the minimum. I think we're getting closer to 60 or 70 mile per hour winds as we're looking at some of the damage reports and some of the velocity data starting to come in from the radar here. So they're going to issue another tornado warning with this for Gaston County. So just a heads up, we're going to get a new tornado warning here for Gaston County as this moves into the county. So they're going to extend this. See, yeah, there's the Bessemer City camera. Thanks guys for grabbing that. That's the camera I was looking at, and it's pretty much right on. Look at the trees. They are really rocking back and forth there. So we're getting some pretty strong, this is a good indication of how strong those winds are. So just to show you, that camera is on the water tower in Bessemer City, which is right there on the radar, and it's looking south towards this storm. So just a heads up, we're going to see a new tornado warning issued here shortly, and it's essentially going to take this warning and extend it into the rest of Gaston County. And again, I'll put a track just on that. So that's the storm moving through the Bessemer City area. This is a camera right on the top of their water tower. And I actually directed the camera back towards Crowder's Mountain, so it's looking south from Bessemer City. And you can see the trees in the foreground giving you a really good indication of just how strong those winds are. I mean, it's really coming down there. So there's the new tornado warning just popped up on the screen. This does include Charlotte. This includes downtown Charlotte, uptown, and most of NODA, South End, out towards the airport, and all the way down to Steel Creek. So this includes a huge area of Mecklenburg County. Basically, think of I-85 coming in from Gaston County. So that's the area that we're talking about. That line is pushing in pretty quickly. These storms are flying, so you don't have a lot of time. Do not wait. Get to shelter immediately. We need to get you into the lowest level of your home, away from the outside walls and windows, and get to the lowest floor you can. If it's not a basement, the first floor. Get to a bathroom, a closet, a pantry, even an interior hallway is a huge improvement. And helmets, if you have helmets, grab those helmets. Please get those on your heads, because we want to protect your head from flying debris. Most people who get injured in tornadoes, it's from flying debris. Head trauma, 80% of all injuries in tornadoes are from head trauma. So please make sure that you have those helmets. Protect the helmet, the heads of your kids with the helmet. If you don't have the helmet, pillowcase, mattress, anything you can to throw over your head. That's what you're going to want to do to protect the head of your child or yourself. That's why sometimes even getting into a bathtub and throwing a mattress over the top can be very useful as well. So if you can do that, let me quickly bring up the safety tips here as we track that tornado warning moving into Mecklenburg County. I'm going to bring up our safety tips here. Give it a second, it'll pop up on screen here. So we want to put as many walls between you and the outside. So the goal here is to build these walls as force fields around you. You see that room that's green? That's the room we want you in. Hopefully ahead of time, you know this, everyone in the family knows what room to go into. That's the room to get into. It's the lowest floor away from the outside walls and windows. What you want to do is those outside walls, and every single wall between you and the outside blocks flying debris. So the more walls, the better. That means above, below, next to you. That's why the lowest floor is great, because ceilings and roofs are walls. They're levels of protection to protect you from any flying debris. So let's go back to the radar, and we'll show you the warning that now includes pretty much I-85 from Gaston County all the way into Charlotte. And as we look at some of the velocity data, we're still seeing that strong surge of wind, though it doesn't look like it's as rotational as it was earlier. It certainly looks like it's more straight line at the very apex of that. But here's the thing, the kind of winds we're seeing in that, it doesn't really matter if it's a tornado. Wind is wind. If we have 75 or 80 mile an hour winds in there, that's EF0 tornado over a big area that will cause the same kind of damage. So I always tell people, your trees, the house, doesn't care what's producing that wind, it's going to break if there's a 70 mile an hour wind. And that's what's going on with this line. So here's the updated storm track. East Gastonia, 357, Cramerton, 358, Belmont, 401, Charlotte Douglas, right around 406. I'm sure there's a ground stop already underway at the airport. If not, there probably will be here shortly. I'm getting some reports from Gaston County of trees down on Ferguson Ridge Road and Crawford Road. That's in Gaston County. Also getting trees down on Queens Road and Stagecoach Road in Gaston County as well. That's all around, it seems like the area right around Crowder's Mountain. So that's the area. So here comes, I see the airport weather alert just came out. So it looks like the ground stop is going to be underway as we speak for parts for the airport. So the airport is going to be under a ground stop here momentarily. So again, if you're just tuning in today, maybe you were watching something else, hopefully your friends gave you a heads up. This is where I can use the help of everybody who's watching us on air, online. Please call, text, do whatever you can. Get people to that safety spot, because as I loop this, you can actually see the rotation within that cell. You see that comma head coming right across the area? The whole thing is rotating. So there is a lot of wind shear, we call it, in this storm, and it's likely at the very least producing damaging winds. So the threat of seeing trees coming down, roofs being ripped off, power lines is very high with this entire line. I'm going to widen this back out because even though there's a warning there, I want everybody in the path of this storm to treat it like a tornado warning. So if you live anywhere along that line, those cities that I'm tracking right there, and I just put them on the screen for you, I need you to treat this like a tornado warning because of the strength of these winds pushing out at 60, 70 miles an hour. So Fort Mill, it's right there. There's the time at the top. Pineville, a couple minutes from now. Charlotte, 407. Huntersville, 418. Mint Hill, Clear Creek, Monroe, all those areas. So again, everybody in the path of this storm needs to treat it like a tornado warning. Get to the middle of your house. Get the kids inside. Get them away from the windows. Just get inside because we're going to see trees and power lines coming down potentially with the strength of these winds coming in. We're seeing low-end EF0, EF1 type winds even with the regular thunderstorms. So treat it like a tornado warning in all these cases until this line passes through the area. I'm getting a lot of spotter reports of trees down all over Gaston County. So that gives me a pretty good indication that we're getting some damage in these locations. It looks like we're getting some type of debris showing up on the radar as well. Every time I look at the debris signatures, it's hard to tell because it's kind of muddled, but it does look like we've got something spinning up briefly in either York or Gaston County, right in that whole line. That's why I said it's hard to tell if it's a tornado or the winds are actually picking up debris by themselves. It could be a combination of the two, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. What I'm going to do is pull up our debris scene. So a couple things to note. What you're looking at here, this is what I look at to show if we have debris. So the red, all the red is going to be rain. Where there's no red, there's no precipitation. But you see this little spot in the middle of your screen there north of Newport, that could be an indication of either hail or in this case debris. We've also got one here south of Gastonia, a little what we call CC lowering. Those two locations in particular, and you see the scan, they just went away. So briefly we had maybe what we call a tornado debris signature. So there could have been a brief touchdown in both York County and Gaston County just based on the radar data. And that's why I'm trying to emphasize that even if you don't live in the tornado warned area, if you're under the severe thunderstorm warning, I want you to go ahead and treat these all like tornado warnings because of that quick spin up potential. In fact, I do think we had a brief tornado touchdown just south of Lake Wylie, northwest of Rock Hill. Just looking at the radar signature, it's a pretty good indication when we had some rotation within there and some debris briefly. So let's do another track on this whole storm. We'll put it right there. I'm tracking this at 45 miles per hour, so just to give you a heads up, that's the timing of this. Let me widen it back out. And we could really track this whole thing because this is the area we're watching pushing off to the east. So there's your updated storm track. So technically tornado warning for parts of Mecklenburg, York and Gaston County, but really in all reality we should be treating this whole thing as a tornado warning. So I'm getting so many reports of trees down in Gaston County. Just to give you a heads up, this is what's coming our way in Mecklenburg, northern York, and northern Lancaster, even parts of Union County. This is what's heading our way. So law enforcement now reporting widespread reports of trees and wind damage in South Gaston County, Old Lamp Lane, Williams Road, Camp Rotary Road, and Kendrick Road. So pretty much where we saw that strong signature, and that might have been the debris that was showing up on the radar briefly. So yeah, we do have the Chevy Storm Tracker out there now, and this is, are they looking back towards this storm from Gaston or Mecklenburg? Okay, so yeah, they're in Mecklenburg. They're looking at the very leading edge of this. This is probably, the view you're seeing there is exactly what you're going to see. This is going to be a giant shelf cloud, which is going to look very ominous. It's going to look a lot like Day After Tomorrow. Think about giant flying saucer, because this is air being pushed out ahead of it is forcing what we call a shelf cloud. It's basically the cold air rushing out, and it creates this giant lowering that comes at you. Now, within that lowering, sometimes there's rotation. And you can see the view they have. I mean, that thing is really, really spectacular and scary to see that thing coming right at you. But that's an indication of damaging winds when you see that. And that whole line you see on the left, I mean, the whole thing is rotating. It looks like a comma or sometimes like a scorpion tail. And you could see how that whole thing is just kind of spinning there and pushing off to the east. So the potential for a tornado anywhere in that line, it doesn't have to be just where the tornado warning is. We see these spin up tornadoes quickly, and I do think we had some damage with a tornado in Gaston and maybe even York County. This is crossing Lake Wylie right now. Daniel Stowe Botanical Garden, Belmont, Mount Holly. This is heading towards the airport. It's going to be here at the station any second now, down towards Tegakay, Newport, Pineville next, Fort Mill, Indian Land, Ballantyne, South End, South Park, Plaza Midwood, Providence, Sardis Road area, down to Marvin, Blakeney, all the way down to maybe Waxhaw, Weddington, all those areas up towards the north side of town, Noda, Wesley Chapel, all the way maybe to about the area around Mount Mountain Lake would be the northern extent. Southern Huntersville, I think, would be the northern extent. And then going east, eventually Cabarrus County, northern Union, Stanley, and northern Anson County all would be in the path of this. So let's go back to the velocity data. And you could see that surge of wind. I'm going to go over to the wall here. And those brighter greens, that's the surge of wind. That's that giant shelf cloud, probably an indication right there. That's the surge. It's pushing in this direction. So it's actually tending to go north a little bit. Here's I-85. There's 485 going south, the airport right there. Going down, you go down towards the prime outlets, Top Golf right there, and then west side of town. This is going to head into areas on the west side over towards 85, Billy Graham Parkway, coming up with 85 there, and then going all the way up towards areas where 85, 77 meet up, then going north towards North Lake Mall, and then back towards Mount Holly, the Whitewater Center. So you kind of get the idea, that little triangle or polygon area, something like that is area, but also back into Cramerton, McCaddenville, Mount Holly. That looks like it's stretching a little bit further north. In fact, Cramerton area, that's an area where it looks like the winds are picking up a little bit. As I look at the velocity data, let's go in there closer. So there's North Belmont, Cramerton, and you could see some of the winds. I'll plot them on there. 50, 55 mile an hour winds. The reason it's negative, because that's towards the radar. So the radar reads it as a negative number because it's, you think about a car, if the police officer is tracking you, it would be a negative number if the speed's coming at you, positive if it's going away from you. And that's how the radar can indicate, using a Doppler effect to tell you how fast the raindrops or particles in this cloud are going. In this case, this is hopefully all rain, though we did detect some debris briefly. And if I go back, I will show you the two areas that we saw a possible touchdown. I'm going to turn off. We'll go back a couple frames here. So two areas I was watching right here, right there, South Gastonia. This is actually northeast of Crowder, so right in the middle of your screen, there was possibly some rotation and debris signature right there. And then to the south, we had one in just west of Concord in the Lake Wylie area, just western side of Lake Wylie, another section right there. So that's the two area. Is that damage from Cramerton there? So there's some video.
I assembled doctors, nurses, teachers.
I am a practicing OBGYN.
This is an opportunity to serve.
Welcome to the Titan Games.
This is the biggest talent show in the world.
Wow.
That's what makes you a champion.
America's Got Talent, followed by World of Dance, premieres Tuesday on NBC.
Introducing Kia's Accelerate the Good program, where we're pushing payments way down the road for new buyers, helping current owners keep the car they have, and providing other customer care programs.
At the Original Mattress Factory, we believe that when something belongs to you, you'll work to make it the best it can be. That's why every OMF employee is also an owner.
That gives you a great sense of pride.
Every single thing we do and action we take is pointed at one outcome: quality. That's what drives us.
Feeling personally responsible for the success of the operation.
Every bed we make is more than just American made. It's hometown made.
We're all in this together, we're all part of the same team, and we're all committed to making amazing beds.
Bayada Nurses.
I'll be there.
Their tradition was forged on the battlefield. Today, they serve in a field just as challenging. The home front, where often getting the call means going beyond the call. Bayada Nurses. Not everyone can follow in tradition's footsteps, but those who do are heroes to those they care for. Bayada Nurses, truly heroes on the home front.
Introducing the most capable Sierra lineup ever. Step up to GMC with 0% financing for 84 months on 2020 Sierra 1500 models. Plus, with Shop Click Drive, you can shop from the comfort of home. See your local GMC dealer.
Introducing Kia's Accelerate the Good program, where we're pushing payments way down the road for new buyers, helping current owners keep the car they have, and providing other customer care programs.
The Carolina Chevy Storm Tracker, only on WCNC Charlotte.
When you call Brothers for your new energy-efficient heating and cooling system, you could save up to $1,750. In addition, you could make no payments on that new system for over a year with qualifying credit. This is a limited-time offer, so visit brotherair.com for details.
With zero interest and zero payments for 90 days, you have zero excuses to not have your new Hyundai by Memorial Day. Lease the Elantra for $169 per month or get 0% APR for 72 months with no payments for 90 days. Complimentary maintenance included.
Seafood, fresh and local. That's what you'll find at Harris Teeter. We're committed to supporting our local fishermen and their families. They're our neighbors and our friends. They catch the freshest quality seafood and deliver it to us. Right now, we're featuring fresh, locally caught shrimp for all of your summer recipes. Whether you shop in our stores or order online, you'll find the best local and regional seafood for your table. Harris Teeter, your neighborhood food market.
After an accident, here's what you can expect from Crumley Roberts.
I am a cheerful hello.
I am a shoulder you can lean on.
I am making sure you get the medical care you need. I am fighting for the compensation you deserve.
I'm a prompt and courteous phone call when you have questions.
I am Crumley Roberts.
I am Crumley Roberts.
I am Crumley Roberts.
We are Crumley Roberts, and we stand up for you. Call 800-288-1LAW.
With zero interest and zero payments for 90 days, you have zero excuses to not have your new Hyundai by Memorial Day. Get a Tucson with 0% APR for 84 months and no payments for 90 days, or get $37.50 in savings. Complimentary maintenance included.
Schedule your annual AC tune-up now with Brothers for only $59. But do it fast.
all of the wind damage right now. And within it, we've seen some embedded tornadoes. I could detect at least 2 tornadoes that possibly touched down briefly within this line. One was actually in the warning area, one was outside the warning area. So it kind of shows you that the way that this system is behaving right now is that we're seeing a little spin-up tornadoes within the whole line as it pushes to the east. So let me widen this out, and you could see it basically pushing right across. And the timing of this was pretty much exactly as we did an hour ago. We had it coming up at about 4:20 over Mecklenburg or Charlotte, and here we are. It's 4:16 as I'm looking at my watch, and it's moving right over Charlotte right now. So again, tornado warning still in effect for central Mecklenburg County till 4:30. And let me show you some of the areas of concern right now. South side of town certainly have a lot of concern with some very strong winds moving through the area. Definitely, we've got some damage possibly being produced on the south side of Charlotte around Steel Creek, down towards Pineville, into areas towards Carolina Place Mall. Very strong gust of wind there. Also around Mount Holly, back towards the town of Stanley at the airport. I haven't seen the airport report what their actual wind gust was, but it had to be pretty impressive as it was passing right over the airport. I'm actually looking at their OBS right now. So they just canceled the tornado warning for parts of Gaston and York, but they're going to keep it up for Mecklenburg here for a little bit longer. Right along 77, that was the area we were watching just a while ago here, south side of town. This area down here, which doesn't look like a whole lot, is actually the area that I have the biggest concern for on the south side of another spin up, because it looks like right in there. I'm going to grab my cursor here. This is the area where we might see some rotation within the storm. So that's why anywhere within this severe thunderstorm warning, you need to take it as if it's a tornado warning. So we'll widen this back out one more time. And I see we have Storm Tracker back out there. We took a pretty significant power hit here at the station. So if you wonder why we went off the air briefly or lost audio, it wasn't you, that was us. We took a pretty good power hit. Briefly knocked us off the air and also knocked our audio off. But Storm Tracker, I believe, is in the western part of Mecklenburg, eastern Gaston County, last time I checked. Based on the radar and what I see them doing there, it looks like that would be the area they're at. This whole line, again, producing damaging winds of close to 65 to 70 miles per hour. Just had a text from one of my students saying they were on the south side of town and they saw debris flying around from some construction sites, which is on the south near the design center. So that area, south side of town, that was the area that, looking at the radar, looked like we might have had some rotation. So again, this is a really good lesson on why even severe thunderstorm warnings, they need to take these sometimes as serious as tornado warnings. And today is one of those days because of the damaging wind threat associated. I'm going to flip over to the velocity data. You see all that kind of yellow on the map? Those are all straight line damaging winds associated with this line. So they let the tornado warning expire, but I will tell you that within this line, I'm just going to show you some of the wind speeds we're seeing. So those are the winds we're seeing about 1,000 to 1,500 feet off the surface. This is pushing to the east at 45 miles an hour. So we call these bow echoes because of the shape they have, but they have the potential to produce damage very similar to a low EF1 tornado. So you always have to take it as serious as it sometimes is a tornado warning. So we're seeing quite a bit, whoops. I was just seeing some of the damage being done on the south side of town. It looks like we have quite a bit of debris flying around on the south side of Charlotte. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of reports of construction debris, so it looks like the winds at the minimum are definitely producing damage in southern Mecklenburg County as we look at some live pictures from Storm Tracker, and it is really coming down out there, folks. So while we're currently not under a tornado warning, I want you to treat all of these severe thunderstorm warnings today as if they were tornado warnings because of the kind of damaging winds we're seeing. Remember, wind is wind. We don't really matter. It doesn't matter if it's a rotational or straight line wind. Your house, if it gets hit with 70-mile-an-hour winds, stuff breaks. Trees come down, power lines come down. All of this can happen in these type of straight line winds. So please, please stay in your safe spot until this line passes. I will give you the all clear as we see it move to the east, and that all clear line is basically west of 321 right now. So everything east of 321 to I-77 and east, everybody needs to be in their safe spot for a little bit longer here. 321 is kind of the line where I would say the worst of it's past you, but everywhere east of there, we're still dealing with severe storms. And you could see, I mean, even on the radar, you don't even have to really look at the velocity data in this indication. We can actually physically see the rotation showing up on the reflectivity. If you look at this little comma head here, it is spinning as it's rotating through, and this tail is coming down this way. So the rotation is spinning here, strong winds forcing it out this way, and as this spins up at the end, we're seeing within there maybe 1 or 2, 3 brief little spin-up tornadoes possible within that comma head. So I wouldn't be surprised if we find out that we had low-end EF0, EF1 tornadoes touch down in Gaston, York County, maybe even Mecklenburg County as this thing was pushing in from the west. So I'm just seeing, guys, you guys hearing any more damage reports coming in? Most of what I'm seeing are trees, and I'm getting a lot of debris reports from south side of town. Possible construction debris, it sounds like. So a lot of places that were under construction, we're getting a lot of reports of wind. I just got a report of a 70-mile-per-hour wind gust at Fairview over near South Park Mall. 70-mile-an-hour winds, so pretty impressive to see winds that strong. Yeah, that's, I'm looking at the video myself, pretty impressive to see wind speeds that side of town, and that was like basically right around the Fairview area. Just had another report, looks like a trampoline in a tree. I think that's in southeastern Gaston County. Certainly looks like the area where we saw that damage come through. So heads up, the next area of concern is going to be eastern Mecklenburg County, Union County, southern Cabarrus, Anson, Stanley, northern parts of Lancaster and Chesterfield counties. Those areas as well are going to be the areas that we have to watch for this damaging wind move in. So the all clear sign, 321, but if you're along I-77 right now, you're in the worst of it as this moves in. So Mint Hill, 426, Lancaster, 434, coming up at Monroe at 346, Concord, 441, Wingate, 444, Big Lick, 449, Pageland, 459, 5 o'clock, Albemarle, Pageland, Wadesboro, Lylesville, around 515 to 520 or so. So those areas all could see 60 to 70 mile an hour winds. Now, normally we don't treat all severe thunderstorm warnings like this, but today we need to treat them like tornado warnings. They're all going to include the tornado tag in the warning text, which means tornadoes could spin up, but also just the straight line winds we're seeing out of these. Really, really impressive to see the winds that we're seeing out of these straight line winds. So the area where we could see a spin up tornado, I see one section here just near 485 north of Mint Hill, another one near Mint Hill, and then another one in Chester County. So just got a new tornado warning for Chester County right here near Fort Lawn and Lansford. So again, this is why we're telling you, you have to treat this whole line as if there's a tornado, because we just had a new tornado warning issued briefly for this cell here. And the reason is right around Fort Lawn. Yeah, there's clearly some rotation right around the Fort Lawn area. So heads up in Lancaster County, because this will be heading your way next. So I'm going to track that possible tornado this way, and that is going to be heading towards Fort Lawn, pretty much right on you now. Lancaster, 435, Unity, 443, maybe eventually up towards Tradesville at 454. So this is a new tornado warning for parts of Chester County. Now, The reason it's such a weird-looking warning is the Columbia Weather Service office is responsible for Lancaster County, so they'll have to issue the warning across the county line. Tornadoes don't stop at the county line, folks, or the river. Just treat this as a tornado warning into Lancaster County. So severe thunderstorm warning there. Just treat it like a tornado warning right now because of the potential that we have a tornado right there. So I'm getting loads of report of damage across the area, a lot of tree damage, a whole bunch from Dilworth, a lot in Gaston County. I know our meteorologist, Chris Mulcahy, has been out in Storm Tracker. And Chris, I know I kind of lost track of where you were, but what have you seen and where are you right now?
Well, Brad, right when the station went down, we were on the western side of 485, and it's exactly what you said. It was in and it was out. This thing is blasting along at 45 miles per hour, and you could expect this to get a lot further along and move a lot quicker over the next hour or so. And if you look closely, we actually have an accident that we're coming up on. Somebody slid off the road because a good amount of rain has come down with this. Think about how saturated that we've been, and just everywhere you go, a lot of people, as you can see here, are now just huddled underneath these overpasses. The amount of puddles that are coming down here as well. The winds were easily gusting up to 50 miles per hour when we had the northern part of that line, and we weren't even in the heart of it. And think about how much rain has come down over the last few days. It's easy for these trees to come down. Shallow-rooted trees, such as certain pines or oak trees, only go down 18 inches. So that wind gust to 50, 60, even once reported to 70 miles per hour will continue to bring these trees down. Right now we're along 85 heading northbound, and we're encountering some traffic, but a lot of people are slowing down because just the intensity of the rain. If we look a little bit closer from the roof cam, you can really see how much water is on the roads, and this is the back side of it. The main line that rolled through, it could be only a matter of 1 to 2 to 3 minutes, even less than the 1 minute range that the damage could be done. And Brad has been mentioning the squiggles or the kinks along this line. It'll be just a matter of seconds that we could have that spin-up tornado, but we always like to say that wind is wind. A gust to 60 miles per hour, if it's rotating or if it's straight line, couldn't do the exact same amount of damage. So a closer look, as you can see here in traffic, the amount of rain that's come down from the back side of this. So we are going to have some poor drainage issues. We've seen 3 to 6+ inches of rain across the area. Trees could come down. Even the back side of this, I'm going to zoom up. This isn't even the main line. Look at those trees rocking and rolling. This is the back edge of this, just showing how strong that this bow echo is. And the reason why it's called the bow echo is because of just the fact of what it looks like, because it has that bow and arrow type curvature. But this rain is intense here on 85. So just be wary if you're going to be out and about. And looks like everyone is diverting here right up ahead just because of the amount of rain, and it might even be another accident. A lot of emergency vehicles have been going back and forth. We've heard reports of power line downs, multiple trees. This is really a serious situation. So, Brad Panovich, hold on one sec. We are actually dealing with a flood right now. The reason why people are slowed down, we were talking about the amount of rain. 85 is flooded right ahead of us. I'm going to try to zoom in from the roof camera. Check that out right in front of us. Wow. So it's not just the damage that we're seeing this. 85 is now flooded here, Brad, and we're at exit 37, just shy of 77. So once you get those gusty winds, with the amount of rain that's coming back from this, you are going to be dealing with some more flooding. So we're not out of the woods as far as that goes. Let me show you these cars. Look at the amount of water that's on the roads from this system, and there's still a lot of rain that's back from this. I'm going to zoom back out. Check this out right in front of Storm Tracker. The amount of rain, and you're seeing debris on the roads. A lot of rain here, Brad, and then on top of that, the amount of trees that can come down, and even gusty winds to the back side of this. Everyone needs to be careful around here in Mecklenburg County and everyone off towards the east. But I'm actually going to turn this. Check this out. Zooming out. Look at all of this water on the roads. Luckily, we're now going to be past it, but that's just an example of what you can see. Try to avoid 85 here because more rain is going to be coming down. Brad, I'll pass back to you. All right, actually, I'm going to stick with it. So, again, everyone, we have these severe thunderstorm warnings, and it's going to be tough to keep up with it. We missed that main line because it was in and out. So, anyone that is now on the eastern side of Mecklenburg County, we'll extend this over to Cabarrus County. I would say from Locust, Indian Trail, you're going to be right under the gun. Weddington, you're seeing some of that heavy rain and also those gusty winds up to 60 miles per hour. But again, the flooding potential is also coming along with this. There was some hail reported with this a few hours ago. That doesn't really look to be the issue. But then we also have this tornado warning down to the south around Fort Lawn. Brad, I'm going to pass it back to you. We'll continue to track this in the Chevy Storm Tracker.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, great update there. I mean, the thing about the roads is, as you saw in Chris's pictures there and video, we are so saturated that it's not taking long for the roads to be flooded, but also to bring trees down. I wasn't shocked, but I really am overwhelmed with the number of reports of trees down across the area. Now, technically still a tornado warning, but the couplet that we saw is kind of weakened. But all along this line, we've seen damaging winds. And some of the pictures and videos we're getting in from you have kind of illustrated what's going on. Let's show some of these pictures, because this is around the Charlotte area. And look at the winds that we've seen. Branches, I mean, just there while they're shooting that, we've got branches coming down. I've saw some wind gusts close to 30, 40, 50 miles an hour, but then some up to 70 miles per hour. Here comes Myers Park. Stan, thank you for that one. You can see that the wind blowing almost looks like a hurricane at points when you see these strong winds. Thanks, Holly. Very strong winds coming in from these areas. And then Uptown, I mean, it had to look like a washing machine at times in Uptown. So thanks for sending all these in. Look at the trees. And this is what I was talking about. Ideal Way and Dilworth. Those are a lot of trees. And this is why we wanted you to get towards the middle of your home, away from those outside walls and windows. Because if you're near one of these windows right here, any one of these and a branch comes in, you know, the tree can get you, but then all that glass comes flying in. So that's why we were concerned today. Those walls will protect you. Get to the middle of your home, and that will protect you from these winds. But I hope everybody is safe over there. More trees down in York County. That's a lot of trees down. That's on the 100 block of Twin Lakes Road. Took down the power lines as well. These trees would have come down anyway. This is a prime example of likely wet soil. Just the fact you could see how wet the curb and the bank was there. So that brought down that tree. So York County, a lot of trees coming down, and that tornado warning was allowed to be canceled pretty quickly. But heads up, I'm going to be tracking this off to the east. I'm going to go over the radar real quick, guys, and just because I want to make sure everybody ahead of this line understands. And thank you for sending all those pictures in, because what that does, more so than my radar or anything I can show you here, pictures really tell the story. And people that are ahead of this line, this is what's heading your way. So as I do this storm track, we just showed you all of that damage. That's the type of weather heading your way. Concord, 435. Wingate, 445. 447 in Big Lick. Albemarle, closer to 5 o'clock. Polkton, Wadesboro, Lylesville. Biscoe, Rockingham, Hamlet, Pinehurst, all between now and 6 o'clock. So this thing is hauling. It is moving. But that forward speed is also indication of damaging winds. One of the things about fast-moving storms, if a storm is moving 45 or 50 miles per hour, that's the minimum type of winds you're going to see. Because the air being pushed just by the momentum of the storm is going to be that high. Then you throw in winds coming out of the storm, downburst winds on top of that. That's how you end up with winds between 50, 60, 70 miles per hour and even higher. Occasionally some higher gusts. So let me give you some all clears. It's still raining along 321 from York, Chester, Gaston, Lincoln, Catawba County, but the worst of the weather is past you. 77, it's about past you. Everybody except for maybe the southern part of Chester and maybe a small section of Mecklenburg. I'm not ready to give the all clear there yet, but the worst of the weather is now pushing east of I-77. And look at all the warnings we have out. We'll break them down one by one. Severe thunderstorm warning for Cabarrus, Gaston, Mecklenburg, Union till 4:45. We go to the east. We've got Anson, Montgomery, Richmond, Stanley County till 5:30. We go to the south. We've got Union County till 5 o'clock. We go to the east. We've got Anson and Richmond. We go to the south. We've got Lancaster, Kershaw, and Chesterfield till 5:30, and a small section of Lancaster County till 5 o'clock. So pretty much every county in the path of this storm is going to get a warning today. That's just the type of system this is. It has just been producing wind along the whole length. I mean, this image to me alone tells a story. Those bright yellows, everything in yellow are winds that are above severe criteria. So if I start plotting some of the winds on here, and again, these aren't at the surface. These are about 1,500 to 2,000 feet off the ground. But with the rain coming down, it's mixing down 73, 68, 68, 63 mile per hour winds. So that's why you're seeing all these trees come down and why we're telling everybody to get inside and treat these like tornado warnings today. Just a lot of damage reports of trees, broken flag poles. We're getting all kinds of debris being blown around. I mean, reports from South Shore I saw of some of the construction sites of debris being picked up and blown around. Another indication of why you should bring stuff in before these storms hit, like lawn, patio furniture, all that stuff becomes flying debris and sometimes missiles. And that's what causes a lot of the damage, sometimes more so than the wind, is what the wind picks up and throws at your house, your car, or you. That's what we're concerned about. So again, severe thunderstorm warnings remain in effect for most of the area. The severe thunderstorm watch was up till 8 o'clock, but they're going to start whittling that down here pretty soon as this starts shifting off to the east. I keep checking to see about some of these damage reports. They're just coming in so quick, it's hard to keep up with all of them. The good news is I don't see any rotation anymore, but the bad news, as we've seen today, not taking a whole lot. A quick spin up within this line is certainly possible. Let me show you some of the strongest winds right now in Cabarrus County around the Speedway. I just got a tweet from the guys up the Speedway. Pretty strong winds moving through the Speedway. Christian sent me some great video from his condo over there at the Speedway. Really strong winds moving through Charlotte Motor Speedway, then down towards Harrisburg, Rocky River, down towards central Cabarrus, then down into northern parts of Union County, Unionville. Look at that leading edge. I mean, that red area that you see on the screen, that is just a giant push of wind. Think of it as a giant bulldozer pushing wind ahead of it, probably at the upwards of 60 miles per hour. So we'll put a track on that because that's the damaging wind gust coming across the area. So there's the track pushing northeast easterly at 45, 50 miles per hour. Just a push of wind rushing out away from the radar. You see the radar sites right there. So this is all wind being pushed away. So every single location will see at least 60 mile an hour winds, and in some cases 75 to 80 mile per hour winds off to the east. We keep getting so many pictures and videos. Guys, could we show some of these pictures again? Because the images we're seeing coming in are really clearly showing the amount of tree damage we're getting. So you see the tree damage coming in from areas across Mecklenburg, Gaston, York County, a lot of York County. That's the trampoline. That's crazy. I do believe that was in southeastern Gaston or southwestern Mecklenburg. So kind of like Lake Wiley-ish area, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe Luke can correct me on Twitter, but that was, those things airborne. Takes a lot of wind. More trees down near Selwyn. Big tree coming down the road there. We're going to see a lot of cleanup. Here's Waxhaw. You could see the wind. Sideways rain is always, or rain curtains, we sometimes refer to it. Indication of how strong the winds are. Thanks for that, Luke. This was interesting. Some of the lowering that we saw over near Montford Park area. So right around, Park Road and Woodlawn. Look at the winds there. This is time lapse, but you could see the sheets of rain blowing off the tops of the trees. Those are probably gusts to 60 right there as that rolled in. So Julia, amazing video there. Man, that's tough. Kings Mountain, that as the storm first rolled in. Natalie, thanks for that. Really strong winds. Please be careful out there. Visibility greatly reduced in these instances where the wind picks up and starts blowing it around. Wind picking up as well, Steel Creek area. Spencer, one of our producers, sent that in. Thanks, Spence, for sending that in. Pretty strong winds there. Looks like the backyard's pretty swamped as well. I think most of us will be drying out for a couple of days. And then look at the winds here, blowing the sheets of rain. We've seen a lot of this, almost reminiscent of a hurricane or a tropical system when you see those rain curtains blowing across the parking lot or the tops of the trees. So in many ways, when you looked at the radar today and you saw this rotation, it kind of reminded you of almost a tropical system. So again, severe thunderstorm warnings for most of the area until the bottom of 5:30. So I think we're going to see at least another hour of these. But the good news is we're starting to clear out back towards the west. So areas west of 77, things are calming down even though it's raining. Folks to the north, I know I'm not ignoring you. It's just you're lucky. There's just rain falling in areas from Hickory to Statesville, even to Salisbury. The worst of the weather has definitely been to the south today, where we've had a stalled frontal boundary and definitely a lot more heat and humidity today. I'm going to put the visible satellite image on because you can see as this approached, we had full sunshine. And if we look back to the west, the sun comes out pretty quickly. So we might actually see sunshine here in some locations before the evening is out. And again, we'll have some time to clean up. But let's do another storm track on this because it's affecting a huge chunk of the viewing area. There's the track, Concord, pretty much right on you right now. Then pushing east, you see all the heavy rain pushing east into parts of Cabarrus, Stanley, Anson, Eastern Union County. And the concern I have going east now is that we saw a lot of rain here yesterday in those locations. And any amount of rain falling there is going to cause some big time problems. So I am worried we're going to see additional flooding in a lot of these locations, especially in Eastern Union, Western Anson County. So we had water over 218 yesterday, so it would not take much to cause some flooding out here. So just be cautious. The Rocky River near Norwood is flooding right now. The Rocky River up in parts of Cabarrus County is at flood stage. So these rivers and creeks can come up real quick because there's nowhere for the water to go. Back to the west, we've just got light to moderate rain coming down across the area. So again, stay in your safe spot west or east of I-77 here. West of I-77, you can kind of venture back to the rest of the house here. The worst of the wind is pushed east. It is going to rain for a little bit longer. The rain is going to be around for maybe another hour or so. We might see the sun come out closer to 7, but the worst of the wind is past you. If I look at the velocity data, it really clearly shows you where the winds are the strongest. I'll actually go to a closer radar. It's that leading edge, which is now moving towards Concord, Huntersville, Concord, Mount Pleasant heads up. Oh, right here's an area we have to watch. So there's New Salem, there's Locust. This is one of those areas that could spin up quickly. Right here, there's strong winds there, and there's a little indent here where the winds are going the opposite direction. So this would be an area that I would immediately be concerned about a quick spin-up tornado right there because we've got rotation. And that's that little section there of southwestern Stanley County, southern Cabarrus County, and northern Union County all come together there. So Stanfield's right there, Midland, Big Lick's right there, heading up towards Frogs Pond, Red Cross out in that area. So right there, that is a little area of rotation that we'll have to watch. There's another one down just south of New Salem I would keep an eye on. But those are the two areas. Those are actually the same two little spots in the line that we saw rotation earlier as the line was moving through. It's bowing out a little bit more right there. So a lot of thunder and lightning. There's also actually a little appendage sticking out there. So heads up there, southern Stanley County. I would be very wary that a tornado warning could be issued in that location with just short notice. But again, we've been trying to stress that we need to treat this whole line as if there's a tornado warning in effect because of the potential of these quick spin-ups along the line. The good news I can tell you in all this today is that as fast as these storms have been moving in, they're moving out almost as quickly. So just got someone heard me on TV, this spotter out the airport said he had a 39 mile per hour gust at the airport. So thanks, Ryan. He's the FAA spotter out there and heard me ask what the gust was. 39 miles per hour was the max gust at the airport. So that's what we had at Charlotte Douglas as the line moved through. I haven't even checked to see some of the other gauges around the area, but I'm sure we had some 60 or 70 mile per hour gusts coming through parts of York and Gaston County. So heads up in Stanley, Anson, Richmond, northern Chesterfield, and most of Lancaster County. Those are the two areas that we have the biggest threat for additional wind damage as well as possibly a quick spin-up tornado as we go into the afternoon. The highest wind gust so far that I've seen has been 60 miles per hour, I think approximately that high, down at the Greer Airport, Greenville-Spartanburg Airport earlier this afternoon. Let's look at some of the rainfall rates, and this is why we're getting flash flooding. Holy moly. Look at some of these rainfall rates on top of saturated soil. So it's not raining for a whole hour, but 4.1 inches per hour, almost 5 inches of rain per hour, just east of Mint Hill on 218. That's going to cause flash flooding. And then into Union County, we certainly have the potential for flash flooding because this is not only falling so quickly, but it's falling in areas that had anywhere from 6 to 8 inches of rain over the last 4 days. So we're talking about the wind, but be careful of flash flooding as well. So potentially some flash flood warnings and quick rises in the water coming up as this line pushes to the east. So again, it's been a busy afternoon as this line has been approaching from the west, but we have had severe thunderstorms and a couple tornadoes possibly touch down. But the biggest threat today has obviously been the straight line wind damage, numerous trees and power lines down. If I start pulling up some of the storm reports, see how many we have, they're not filtering in nearly as quickly as I expected, but we're starting to get more and more reports coming in over the last hour of trees down, power lines, and a lot of debris blowing around. So Sarah, it's been a busy afternoon of severe thunderstorm warnings. We still could have a quick spin up at any moment. And if you live in Eastern Union, Anson, Stanley, Richmond, Chesterfield, and Lancaster County, the threat is not over. West of I-77, the severe threat is done, but now it's shifting off to the east.
Brad, thank you. Of course, we'll continue to check back in with you throughout the evening. Right now, though, we're following some more breaking news. President Trump wants churches and other houses of faith to open up this weekend. This afternoon, the president said houses of worship provide essential services and called on governors to allow them to open immediately. If they don't, the president said he would override the governors. President Trump said he directed the CDC to issue guidance regarding churches, synagogues, and mosques.
Today, I'm identifying houses of worship, churches, synagogue, and mosques as essential places that provide essential services. Some governors have deemed liquor stores and abortion clinics as essential, but have left out churches and other houses of worship. It's not right.
Remember, earlier this week, we told you a federal judge overruling Governor Roy Cooper's order allowing churches to hold services indoors in North Carolina. This now gives them an extra layer of protection to hold indoor services. Well, new at 4, another round of business is reopening today in South Carolina. The latest list includes zoos, museums, and amusement parks, just to name a few. The biggest amusement park in our area, Carowinds, remains closed, but others are opening. WCNC Charlotte's Alex Shabbat joins us from Mr. Putty's Fun Park in TGK with that story. Alex?
Well, the owner here says some of the safety measures are built into the park, like the distance between courses. Others are happening behind the scenes, and he says they may be permanent. Customers at Mr. Putty's Fun Park, not the only ones taking in the new site. It's also been a big eye-opener for us. Owner Rob Casatelli says he's glad to welcome people back. So today we can officially reopen all of our attractions. But he says it's not business as usual. In fact, far from it. We saw customers wearing masks, and Casatelli is keeping an eye out for social distancing. As you can see right now, it doesn't look like too many people are having a problem maintaining a safe distance from one another. In addition, he says they're being vigilant about hygiene for employees and cleaning procedures. Try to give everybody one putter and then retire that putter for the day, sanitize that in the sink and hospital grade disinfectant overnight. Miniature golf has been opened here since May 1st, and now another big step forward. Kind of the cards aligned for us perfectly for Memorial Day weekend to have our attractions open. The owner says he's going to see how much business there is this weekend, and that will in part determine how much hiring there is moving forward. In TGK, Alex Shabbat, WCNC Charlotte.
All right, we'll be right back after a quick break.
Several other roads where we did have some of those road closure signs. So heading through the weekend, we still have a chance for some more storms and a little bit more rain behind that. So heading through the Memorial Day weekend, everyone needs to be careful. But on top of that, we're also dealing with the cleanup, such as we can see right here. So Sarah, as I was mentioning, stay safe. And you can see that no one is really showing urgency at this point. So I do think everyone's all right. But this is going to be a big cleanup, again, off of East Boulevard and here off of Cumberland Drive. So please be careful, everyone. I think we're going to see several more states from that strong line of storms that rolled through not too long ago.
All right, Chris, thank you. And since you were talking about storm drains, as we take a look at this next video in Gastonia, you can see this wind whipping these trees. Chris was talking about storm drains. If you're in your neighborhood and it's safe to do so, make sure you clean out debris and leaves from those storm drains. Brad talks about this all the time. You can help prevent significant flooding in your area if you make sure those storm drains are clear. All right, let's move on to Charlotte Motor Speedway. You can look at the heavy rain just pouring down here. And also we have this video, unbelievable, a trampoline in a tree. This is in Quail Ridge, the Quail Ridge neighborhood in South Charlotte. Brad, when you first showed this picture, I thought we were looking at a TV station and one of the satellites, but this is actually a trampoline in someone's tree in their backyard. And as you heard Brad say earlier, when you know a storm is coming, it's a good idea to make sure whatever you have in your backyard is secure. Bring in patio furniture, close those umbrellas, anything you can do, because when those winds get really strong, it can be very dangerous. So make sure you have the WCNC Charlotte mobile app. We will let you know when there is severe weather in your area, and you can track it using our interactive radar when we're not on the air. All right, tonight at 5, we're following some more breaking news. North Carolina now in phase 2 of Governor Cooper's plan to reopen businesses all across the state. And today, many of those businesses, from restaurants to hair salons, reopen their doors for the first time in 8 weeks. But what will eating out or getting your hair done look and feel like under the CDC's safety guidelines? WCNC Charlotte's Ashley Daly spent the day finding out. She's live at 5 in Dilworth. Ashley.
Yeah, Sarah, we hope to be live outside of Suffolk Punch in Charlotte's South End this evening, giving you a look at that business getting back to somewhat of a normal routine. However, as you know, the weather put a little bit of a damper on that, but they are just one of many businesses across our area eager to get back to work. Forget the dishes. North Carolinians now don't have to lift a finger. In fact, to help keep customers safe, restaurants working to make it so you don't have to touch much at all.
This door is going to be propped open.
At Osteria Luca in the Park Road Shopping Center, the doors will be open for those with reservations. Tables spaced 6 feet apart, same for seats at the bar. At the bathroom, touchless soap and towels. And when you're done eating, you don't even have to touch the bill.
Which allows the guest to actually take a picture of the check and then make the payment on their own phone.
Changes also brewing at Suffolk Punch in Charlotte's South End. To maintain social distancing, all guests asked to sit unless visiting the bar. Even in line, these green X's show where it's safe to wait.
We're just thrilled to be back and to have guests back on premise and have our team back to work.
Just like restaurants, hair salons also allowed to reopen today at 50% capacity.
I'm raring to go. I am starting at 5 on the dot today.
Stylist Misty Creech was forced to close her hair studio at Sola Salons for 8 weeks, but today is eager to get back to work despite new safety protocols.
Client is supposed to text me from the car, and then I will let them in once my client that is there has left.
Businesses given new life under what's now a new normal. Today, Mecklenburg County's Public Health Director, Gibby Harris, spoke out about the reopening, and she was asked if she would be comfortable to go out to a restaurant and eat out. Her answer was that this weekend she'll be comfortable grilling at home. Reporting live, Ashley Daly, WCNC Charlotte.
The COVID pandemic has been devastating in so many ways, but the isolation can be extremely difficult, especially for patients spending their final moments alone. WCNC Charlotte's Chloe Leschner is at Novant Health with a story of one nurse who stepped in when a dying patient's family could not be there.
Cassie Brault is an ICU nurse here at Novant. She says she puts her
Memorial Day weekend. We're expected to hit an all-time low for travel in the U.S. this weekend, but if you are headed out, things are going to look a whole lot different. And we've got recommendations for if you want to have people over to celebrate the unofficial start of summer. I'm Savannah Levins. That story is coming up.
Who doesn't love an all-new Jeopardy?
Severe thunderstorm watch has already been canceled for areas along 77 West, so Mecklenburg County has been erased from this, and we will see more counties whittled away as this line pushes to the east. You see where the severe weather threat is shifting now off to the east ahead of this, what we call an MCV, and I'll explain what that is in a minute, but essentially we had a little spin in the atmosphere head our way, and for the weekend, the good news is we're not expecting any more severe storms. There's that spin. It's right there, and it's got a little bowing segment. You can actually see the rotation with it. MCV is an acronym we use for mesoscale convective vortex. Essentially what it is, it's a spin in the atmosphere created by thunderstorms. And those thunderstorms created this low pressure system, which then has this bowing segment. These can be particularly dangerous, especially when they move into an environment like we had today with a lot of warm air and a lot of low level humidity. And that's why we had such gusty winds. So this cold pool was rushing out and causing all these strong winds as well as embedded tornadoes. Now, everywhere west of this line, all clear from severe, because that's the area where the severe thunderstorm watch is being whittled away, and that's actually what we're going to see for the remainder of the evening. Back to the west, we actually could see the sun come out. It's actually starting to clear in the western part of the state and the upstate of South Carolina, so don't be surprised if we see some sunshine by the end of the night. Back to the west, we should have better weather moving in for the weekend. There's our system exiting. Notice overnight we could see a lingering shower, but tomorrow looks like a better day. We'll wake up to sunshine and likely some drier conditions. Now, there were some pockets of heavy rain embedded within that line. We've seen over an inch in Shelby. Out to the east, that's an area we're watching carefully because they had so much rain in the past 24 hours. So tomorrow, the start of the weekend, we're going to see a stray thunderstorm in the afternoon, but temperatures up into the mid-80s and more of the spotty afternoon variety that you would typically see in the summertime. You see the batch moving through tonight. Tomorrow, most of the day will be dry, but again, just like we've seen the last couple of days, we're going to see a pop-up storm in the afternoon and evening. Nothing like today and nothing like the heavy rain early in the week. For Sunday, we'll have sunshine most of the day, but again in the afternoon, a pop-up storm. And then for Memorial Day, looks like a backdoor front drops in, and that means some slightly cooler air and more clouds. So the next couple of days, sure, we have a rain chance in there, but it's no washout. This is just going to be isolated stuff as we go into next week. We will see the mugginess stick around. It was sticky today, very muggy tomorrow into Monday, and that mugginess will be sticking around. So for the weekend, spotty thunderstorms, temperatures in the mid-80s. Kind of feels like the unofficial beginning of summer. Here's that weekend broken down hour by hour. Both days very warm and humid, and you will be dealing with a stray thunderstorm each day. Coca-Cola 600, keep an eye on the radar. We could see a passing storm. We'll be right back.
The Carolina Chevy Storm Tracker, only on WCNC Charlotte.
Selling your home can be stressful. You can buy